Hello, everyone. I am your host, Scott Trout, in the Between Two Worlds podcast. Stories of faith, unfaith, and everything in between. I'm here with my host, Joey.
Hello, everyone. And we're also here with our lovely, lovely guest, Kristina.
Hi, guys, and everybody else.
So I thought we could do the old labeling yourself intro. So I'll start. I am Scott Trout. I'm a Christian who really likes to make people laugh.
Nice.
I'm Joey. I'm what they call non-believer who believes in something out there. And I also love to make people laugh.
Oh boy, I'm Kristina, and I was thinking what I'm going to say. I just want to say I'm a being, and I feel very nervous in my stomach, and I also like to make people laugh, and I like when you guys make me laugh.
We all have things in common. We love to laugh and make people laugh. So today, the point of this podcast is to get people on here with us, with Joey and I. Joey and I come from different perspectives as far as religion, faith, spirituality, and we really enjoy each other and wanted to interview others about their spiritual journey to start to see what is the in-between between the two worlds of people who call themselves believers and non-believers, or Christians and atheists, or someone who's agnostic. And of course, it really isn't two separate worlds, but a whole lot of in between. And so we're going to be talking through Kristina's story today and where she finds herself in the in-between of her journey, of what she's discovering, where she's been. And yeah, very excited to be doing this with you today, Kristina.
Thank you, Scott. I notice I make myself feel a bit, I want to tell a good story. I want to yeah, I noticed like that.
You will, don't worry. It's going to be good.
You're going to do wonderful. We're going to introduce how we met you, because that is also a wonderful story. Because we actually, all three of us met through improv. So Scott and I, as you guys, as I've heard in the first episode, met during a, what's it called again? A nice little workshop. But Kristina met Scott and I during our class together, our nice level 2.
Mm-hmm.
Kristina, do you remember any first impressions of either Joey or I off the cuff?
Oh, God. Yeah. I remember Joey and another, Pavan from our group. They were the first people I saw when I entered the waiting room of before a class. And yeah, I noticed I made myself feel isolated. I was like, oh, those people, I didn't even know that you're going to do improv. I was just like, maybe they're going to do improv because they're talking a lot. And I made myself feel isolated, oh, they're already talking to each other and they know each other. And then I was like, I don't want to say anything. And then I don't know, somebody else. And then Scott, I think you arrived either late or I don't know, something at the first class. And I think I was happy that you were also kind of like an outsider or something. Even though I actually knew some people from previous class, but I was like, oh my God, the new guy. Yeah, these are my first memories of you.
So Scott, I want to ask you, what is the first thing you remember about Kristina?
It is funny when you first jump into those classes because you're just trying to figure out who are these people based on their looks or how they're standing, just very superficial things. And so I feel like maybe when I first met you, Kristina, I was like, I didn't know. I think maybe your face wasn't super expressive at first, because I think we're all kind of like waiting to see what's about to happen, and we're all a little scared. But then I quickly realized that that you get very expressive, especially when you start doing improv. I don't know if you remember the scene where we had to like mime each other, our facial expressions, and one person would start and do something really big, and I think maybe I started and I made my face just huge, and my hands were like really far out, and then so you had to just do the exact same face, and then we ended up being in like a wind tunnel together, and it was just really fun to see. I don't know what my face looked like, but I really enjoyed looking at your face.
I don't remember the exercise, and I want to say that I've hear this many times about my serious face, and then like how people are like, oh my god, who is she?
You okay?
Yeah.
Then that smile comes out. So, as part of our opener, we've got 3 things we're going to talk about. We've got what was embarrassing, what was infuriating, and what was inspiring. Joey, I don't know if you and I nailed down which one we're doing. So
We haven't. So I would say let the guests pick one first.
I think she's got inspiring.
Yeah, I said that I have
You're
previously
great.
said that I have many
So,
inspiring
Joey,
things.
Infuriating or embarrassing? As she's giving us hers, you go next, pick, and then I'll do the one that's left.
You know
All right,
what?
so Kristina, something this week that was inspiring.
Yeah, I guess now I'm thinking if my definition of inspiring is correct enough, and just I guess a simple note from yesterday. As I said, today was a previously before we started recording a crying day, and it kind of ended when I went to see my boyfriend, and we talked a bit, and he was like, "Time for cuddles," and then. Yeah, and then we went and cuddled, and yeah, had like some skin on skin contact and napped, and that was like a reset button, and it was really great. The sadness disappeared. I was just all present. I felt loved, and that's inspiring to me to get reminded of importance of physical contact and also emotional kind of contact.
Wow, that's a very good and deep story. Like for especially like if you think inspiring, you're like mostly thinking of things on the outside, but you went inside. So that's actually the complete opposite of what you would expect. And I love that. So I decided to go for embarrassing because why not? So as of late, what I do is I go to the forest and I go for a nice little forest run. It's exactly 5 kilometers. Cannot translate for the Americans. I'm very sorry. And so I was running in the forest, and there's this nice little path that goes into into this bush. And I was sprinting at full speed, like in sort of a rage mode. I wasn't really angry, but my face expression was really angry apparently. And I ran into this little girl with her mother, and this little girl just jumped. She was like, "Oh my God, we're going to get killed. I need to be gone from here." So I had to apologize because this poor little girl, maybe 4-year-old, was so scared out of her mind.
You like literally ran into her.
I ran into her, almost through her if I
Wow.
stepped any faster.
Oh man.
So that was really embarrassing.
That's awesome. And hopefully made her a tough lady. For me, infuriating. So toilet paper has been, a hot topic these days. Brianna recently, this is my wife, she's awesome. She loves to find good deals, and she did on some toilet paper. The one that was on sale was pink, which that's fine. Pink's fine.
Yeah.
Except when it's in the toilet and like in a wad, and you're like, "Whoa, what?" What is that? And you're a man and you have no idea what anything is. And so you think anything remotely pink is a tampon. And you're like, Brianna. But then you realize it's just the pink toilet paper we bought. So I'm constantly just being traumatized. Look, I had 4 brothers. I know it's insensitive. The world's just very new to me. So I don't know about infuriating, but in that split second, I'm like a little bit like, hey, come on. But then I realized.
Oh man.
Scott, you better get prepared. If you're gonna have, in the future, girls as kids, you will experience more and more of these moments.
I've had a lot to learn. The context of this also, because you're like, why is she not flushing the toilet? Great question. Because we're saving water in the middle of the night. We choose not to flush, but only at night. Because then other people don't walk in and see the weird toilet paper, but only me. So that's fine.
I think that's great. That saves water.
We're doing it one non-flush at a time.
Very earthy of you.
Thank you. All right. Off to the meat of this podcast. Opener is done. It's time we interviewed Kristina and her story of faith or unfaith and everything in between.
Yes. So for the listeners, we're going to switch off every question. So the first question is from me for Kristina. And Kristina, my question it will be, tell us about your story of faith and where your spirituality began, and even how would you describe that for yourself?
Where does my spirituality begin? Well, I got some sort of understanding of our concept of, well, first thing that comes to my mind is like God, Christian God. And I got my understanding of that when I was a child and I lived with my father. He got into Orthodox Christianity in the early 90s when he was like, in his late 20s, early 30s. And he really went kind of super deep into that. Was very like, very excited about it, went all the way, was super hardcore, kind of like either it's that way or no other way. And that's how I got introduced to God and church. And I would say that created like kind of black and white image for me, or understanding of God. And it got a lot tied to sin, like this talks about sins and being good and obeying, like that. And then when I moved away from my dad when I was 10, I moved to live with my mother and to another country. I was in Russia and I moved to Finland. The environment changed a lot. Nobody cared about this like kind of hardcore believing and praying and going to church and having kind of like God and stuff like that as the main value in life. So I imagine it was a bit confusing for me as a 10-year-old. And I was left in this kind of black and white judgy mode for many years. I would say only maybe around 5 years ago, I stopped caring about that. I'm going to be 30 this year, so it's been a good 15 years of trapped in my own mind with those judgments. I even went, so it was kind of a thing in my mind affecting there, and I was afraid to bring it up. Like, how do you bring up to your new friends in your new country that, hey, by the way, you're all going to go in hell. Your whole country is going to go in hell because you don't have the right type of Christianity. It's not that you don't believe, it's just even your type of Christianity is wrong. So I didn't dare to bring that up, and I thought everybody's like having wrong values. What? Having fun with friends? No. Having, I don't know, you're not praying. Yeah. You're not thinking about God. And yeah, so that was very black and white. When I was 21, I went to this monastery in Russia, where I went to volunteer for 5 weeks. And I thought like, kind of, it's now or never. And this is a monastery, they pray, this is like straight connection to God. They only pray, they're like doing all the holy things. And I just got more confused there, and I don't know, I felt like I had no agency in my life. I was just battling between, I literally had I met like a, how do you say, mentor of that monastery there, who was like a old monk. And they said that he knows things because he prays. And then he told me, yeah, you just stay in the monastery and like learn cooking and singing and, you know, whatever. And I was like, that sounds a bit like bullshit. Like I'm in the middle of university. I live in another country. Like, and then I was all confused, and I told myself like, well, I guess that's how it should be because he's the monk. He knows better. But then, and I was afraid to call my parents to tell this because I thought they will be, I imagine they would be shocked or something. That, okay, Kristina is now going to be a nun or something. And yeah, to use a phone, you were supposed to ask for a permission or kind of like a blessing from the main nun. And I was very obedient. I was like, yeah, of course. Otherwise, it's like super bad, and like it's demons who are telling you to do bad things. And when I finally, I guess in a week or week and a half, got courage to call my dad to tell this, and my mom, my dad at first was like, okay. But then next time I called him, he was like, no, you get out of there. And then I didn't know what to think myself, and it was a bit weird. So I'm 21 and I still don't have kind of my own voice or something. I felt I was just telling what my dad said to the main nun, and then the main nun was kind of answering something to him, and I was telling to him, and I made this whole kind of weird thing. It ended up in me kind of escaping the monastery in the middle of the night. Very dramatic. But escaping in terms that the main nun knew about it, but I didn't dare to say about it to anybody else there. So I felt like I didn't know if I was doing the right thing. And when helper of the main nun was bringing me to the train station that time, she told me something like, well, if you want to ruin your life, then leave. She was referring to that old monk telling me that I should stay. And then at that point I was like, okay, even though I'm doubting, and even if it's this monastery and they're like holy and whatever, this is weird, because if you're like close to God, you shouldn't be so hating or kind of threatening. Yeah. And I feel like I'm like just talking, and I'm
You're doing great.
Yeah, we love to listen. It's a very interesting story so far.
Yeah, I just want to say, if you want to interrupt or something, and let me know.
Well, I actually have a question for you, because do you feel like you would have listened to anyone that has like a spiritual or anything else like role, or was it the authority itself that made you listen to them?
I don't know what you mean about role, but I want to answer in a way that I guess I was kind of anyone who has like kind of high authority in like Orthodox church, that I was like I guess aiming that if they say something that is right for me, then that's right. And I think ultimately I also wanted to have my father's approval, or like do as he wants or something like that. Yeah. But yeah, after that episode in the monastery, I kind of drifted away quite effectively, because I was like, if even people in monasteries are not kind of holy enough, or I didn't feel that truth or something, then why am I just blindly believing in something that just doesn't feel right? Yeah.
Hmm. Wow, it's interesting that even your dad, who was maybe on the more like religious side of things, he felt weird about the monastery as well.
Yeah, I think at that point he was already less religious, kinda, and he wanted me to. Yeah, he just didn't. I imagine he wanted me to at least first finish studies and then kind of decide myself about my life.
Hmm. So that is our next question. How much of your faith, current or past, is informed by your parents, and in what way?
Oh, what was informed?
Yeah, it seems like you kind of already answered a lot of this too, but just how would you articulate like your view of God having been impacted by your mom or your dad?
Yeah, good question. Well, yeah, I think I described how I was feeling about it, at least in the past. And well, if I want to say something about my mother, she is not like super religious, but she still believes. She was more chill about it. She kind of had it more personal for herself, so she didn't force anything on me. Didn't demand anything. And same for my mother's husband. And right now, I would say that I do not care about Christian God, or yeah, as I introduced myself as a being, which I think, yeah, I guess it's related to spirituality. I have a story that I like. I'm attached to this story nowadays. I started to read more about Buddhism like about a year ago, a year and a half, something like that. And I like this idea of not being attached to anything. And now I'm not that into Buddhism, but it just feels like that we are beings, and then our thoughts and emotions, they come and go, and this type of thinking that not attaching yourself to anything particular and being fine, or trying to be fine, accepting that everything is ever changing. That seems like a good way to live in the present. I imagine people will label that as spiritual view or something.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's really close to a spiritual view. So I just came up with an interesting question before we move on to that intertwines with your story just now. The next question, but what I want to ask you now is like, you mentioned that your mother was less spiritual. Do you think that people from say the non-believer side, so to speak, and the believing side, do you think those groups could get married and live together without like that friction that you can imagine coming from the extreme and non-extreme side?
Oh man. Well, I mean, one of the things that why my parents got divorced was because my dad went full on into kind of religion, and my mom was like, what the hell, man? You need to kind of earn money too, and not just, I don't know, draw or something. Because my dad was really was impressed by icons that they have in Orthodox churches, and he was really interested in those, and that's how he got into Orthodox Christianity too. So I mean, anything can happen, and I imagine it's quite difficult if one person is very religious and has their meaning of life and value as if these rituals are very important and to the other one not, then I imagine it's difficult.
Yeah, I would agree with that, because it's actually something I've been thinking about a little bit myself. Is like, what happens if I meet a nice Christian girl? Like, can that happen? Can that work out? And it's been very interesting because I've met so many nice Christian people thanks to Scott, and I really do believe that there is that possibility. But at the same time, I can't really like fathom how my household would look if that would happen.
You know what I think? I kind of have a story that if it's a woman who is religious and not you, then it might work, because maybe women are, I don't know, raised to be more obedient or something. Now I feel like a bit edgy saying this.
Oh, interesting. So then if it's the man who becomes religious, he takes too much from the woman. Like she just...
Yeah, something. Well, my thought is that, like, I imagine a situation where a woman is like fine with you not being religious, while also thinking that, oh, he will like change.
he'll change some point.
Yeah, I think the most important thing is honesty and getting your priorities clear.
That's so
and
good.
Goals.
Yeah, and it seems like what happened was that there was a flip of character. Maybe your dad was one way, then found religion and became something different, potentially, like his pursuit in life or what defined him. And I really do think that's why, I guess just personal thought, but just it's important to know if you're on the same page about the major things of life going into a relationship. Because it is hard to kind of have something that's fundamental to somebody that's not fundamental to the other person. So then you're like, in small but can become big ways, you feel this divide. But I also think, Kristina, what you just said there at the end, like honesty is super valuable too, because I would think more than just finding somebody who agrees with everything you believe, finding somebody who is humble and willing to look into things, whatever it might be, and who's honest about what they're currently feeling, that is like a relationship worth having, because then those two people can change with each other, and they can change each other because they're like, well, this is what I believe now, but I'm open, I'm willing to hear, especially if you start to feel doubt or a new conviction, or you want to look into something, like we should do that together. Of course, that's pretty ideal. I don't know if it always happens, but yeah, I think that honesty and openness is like really valuable.
This actually reminded me at the time when I kind of let go of religion about 5 years ago. I was dating a guy who didn't care about it, like didn't care about religion, and I was still more like, oh, I'm gonna go to church on Easter, and when there was an Easter mass, I went and I asked him to come, and he did come. Like he was interested to see, so he was like super open-minded, and he never like ridiculed me and didn't push his own agenda or anything. But he did ask me questions, just simple questions like, I don't have any examples right now, but kind of asking, oh, why do you think like this and why not like that, and kind of what's the logical connection. And many times I couldn't answer. I was just like, oof, like that's like, this is how I've been taught, and that's it. Taught. Yeah. So, and we're not together, but it wasn't because of these differences in beliefs. And I'm grateful to him for being like that and being, just because I guess it was my fear also growing up that because in Finland people are mainly non-religious, and I had this like religious hiding religious self in me, and I was afraid that I would be ridiculed, and he didn't do that.
That's very interesting. Especially looking at the next question, do you feel like that part specifically made you change? Or what do you feel like? What is the specific thing that made you change from, say, like now you're interested in Buddhism? Like, what is that? How did that look for you morphing into that change?
Well, right now, I just want to say right now, I'm not interested in Buddhism per se. It was like a year ago where I started. Right now, I'm interested in this kind of present moment and expressing myself and feeling my body and kind of, yeah, I make that important for myself, and honesty, kind of reporting what's happening in my head and in my body. Change. I think I was very unhappy and lost, didn't feel safe, and yeah, and about the, yeah, I just felt also many times like very isolated from everything and everyone, and didn't, yeah, it was sad. But about a year ago, I just decided to, because also with Christianity, I had this kind of like, oh, all the cacao ceremonies and I don't know, shamaning something and this type of music or this type of interaction, that it's kind of like something demonic. That was like very long with me. I see Joy laughing.
Yeah, as a guy that listens to death metal, I feel like, yeah, nah, it wasn't really that demonic for you.
Yeah, I kind of, yeah, I don't know, let go of that. Oh, I actually, some months before I started my more self-development last year, I started doing improv, like just something I finally dared, and I went, and yeah, that was a great way to be less scared of people and to get to know people and kind of see that, oh yes, people do like me, and yeah, feeling accepted is something really, really important, like feeling to being in community. Feel like I'm losing the thread here. But yeah, a year ago I went to like kind of life coach who was a bit, I don't know, had some crystals and that stuff that I previously would have, I don't know, condemned heavily, like, what is this? Yeah, and I think main thing for me was that there was somebody who gave me space to be myself and kind of listened, and that has been kind of my healing journey, I would say, like now within the last year or something, like opening myself up to people and being with people and seeing that they're not running away and not rejecting me, not laughing at me, not like yeah, I didn't have this kind of school bully experiences that yeah.
Mm. I really love that, and I feel like for me, so I guess if I could repeat back to you what I feel like I've heard, that finding the freedom to be yourself within a community and to not be second guessing, how are they viewing me? Am I not holy enough? Am I not following the rules enough? Which within a religious community, it can be easy to feel like constantly judged, even if people aren't judging you, but you feel this internal pressure of like, I'm not measuring up. And then that becomes the narrative that feeds into every interaction. I'm not measuring up, and so that's why those people aren't talking to me, or I'm not measuring up, that's why I'm not understanding the Bible, or I'm not measuring up, and that's why my prayers aren't being effective, whatever it might be. And so it sounds like you talked about like the healing part of your journey, and actually it sounds like it started even with that boyfriend. So it's like leaving the monastery, finding the freedom to like you don't need to measure your success by these people's approval. Then you're going off, I think, back to university, probably continue to find out like, well, who am I? Not just who should I be, but who am I? And then boyfriend asking some piercing questions, it sounded like, of like, well, why do you think that? And you're like, well, I don't know. I'm just supposed to, this is what I'm supposed to believe. This is the thing. Stop doubting it. And then like you said recently, like you could talk a little bit about radical honesty, but I know that you've been pursuing this idea of being honest with yourself, with others. And so, and then I think through improv as well, like the freedom to be silly, the freedom to be out there, the freedom to be big, be small. So there's like this, you have found that freedom to be yourself, to yourself and with others. Yeah.
That's very beautiful, Scott. And sometimes it is like that. Sometimes it's not, but I judge you. Need to practice and be kind of a master to, or that's my story, like to be like that all the time. And sometimes when that happens, it's awesome.
Yeah, I was just, because I was reflecting on my story with Christianity, which like there's some definite aspects that are similar. I had a heavy sense of what I should be when I was little. And I think we could probably have a whole podcast on helping young kids believe in Christianity and like what you should and shouldn't do. I don't even know. But I came to a place in college through Christianity, through actually like figuring out what do I believe versus just what was given to me, that I found that exact same place of groundedness with who I am and okay with being me in the context of a group, Christian group, theater group. And like you said, of course, I think I've got a lot to grow, but that I think is a really important moment to find that self-acceptance in a way. Was that what you would describe it as, like self-acceptance? Or
Ultimately, yeah, I think, you mentioned radical honesty. Thank you. In that practice, it is about noticing and reporting what's going on in you. And it is about accepting kind of who you are and being as you are. And I would say that practice has definitely helped me to do that. And I make it important to say that I like sometimes I am hard on myself and I do judge myself, but overall I'm definitely much happier than even a year ago or half a year ago.
Which is always an important thing. And as someone with not a religious background, I think it's a very important topic to talk about, because I feel like everyone goes through the same stages, only like how you, Scott, describe it is an extreme because you already have like a path set out for you in a way. But I think most like young people find the same problem, like who am I supposed to be, where am I going, and how do I get there? And I think it's very important to, especially if you're not religious, to find your space, like who am I supposed to be, and what do I want to be, most importantly. And I feel like when you go into the aspect of religion on top of that, I think it's important to separate those for yourself as well, like not just follow the religious path, like also look at yourself, like do you want to be an athlete or do you want to be studious, or and what direction do you want to go with your religion, what brings the two of them together. I think there should be a main focus on both sides.
I think that's I just want to say that I think whichever religion you have in family as a parent, it's important. I think it's important to first have their kid know who they are and then have that spiritual aspect maybe additionally, and not to like have the kid define who they are by how good they are in front of God or something, because I think it's important to find that internal strength and not just follow the external rules.
Yeah, an internal conviction as well, that he or she starts to understand what they believe versus just what they're supposed to believe, what they actually think. taught to think, not just to spout back the right answers or something. So, Kristina, what would you like to say to the other side? The other side could be whatever side you think it is, but just, yeah, it could be to Christian parents. It could be to Christians who maybe have never doubted their faith. It could be to Buddhists. I mean, so whatever, somebody who maybe finds themselves on the other side of your journey.
Yeah, now I'm thinking like, what is the other side to me? If I think about myself right now, I think, or what I like to think, like, I don't like this idea of the other side. I'd rather much have this belief of us all being one, kind of, and we're just kind of being one and just different versions of one, each person. But of course, there are differences in some things. And I guess I mentioned that I like the idea of not being attached to certain beliefs or emotions, thoughts. And so I would maybe judge the other side is people who have very, very strong beliefs and think that that belief will last like forever, that it's valid forever. I want to say that if we don't take like, let's not bring science into this and like physics, and I'm not gonna dispute those. But if it's about like spiritual beliefs and how people should be or should not be, and psychological and stuff like that, then it's super, super subjective, and everybody has their own path. And even for myself, I want to say that after I left one religion, I made different things my next religion. I made improv, like, oh, this is how I'm going to find the path. Radical honesty, this is how I'm going to find the path. This is the structure, how it's supposed to be. And if I do these things, I'm going to be elevated. So I made this like a pattern for myself, how I get into things. And then I'm like, oh man, no, I'm missing the point. Like, it's not about making a new safe path that is like pre-structured. That's not what life is about. I don't know, embrace the moment more and don't be so sure about your beliefs or something like that. Yeah, that's my message.
Wow, really cool. It's actually kind of funny. Like, normally I would expect like, it is actually something that Scott's group does as well. They're very deep into the religion aspect of everything, and they're like true believers. You can sense that they really do believe in what they're saying. Only I've never heard them say like that you have to believe. They just radiate that, and you just say that as well. You say, don't be as sure in the things you believe in. And I think maybe you want to say that. Maybe I'm just filling in something that I think in this moment. But you're saying like just show by doing and not by saying, in a way.
I did not mean that, and I hear you. That's sometimes that's a good advice.
All right. And so now we really want to know, like, from your standpoint, what is someone missing? If you look at yourself, like where you are right now, like what are people missing if they're not believing or not following a certain journey that you are doing right now?
Oh God. There's such a, oh, by the way, I say probably, oh my God, every day, and every time I'm thinking like, am I even allowed to say this now that like technically
I've been keeping a tally.
We're telling the big guy later.
like God, Jesus, you know. I have a friend who when I say Jesus Christ, he's always like saying, "Who's that? Is he here?"
Oh,
That's
I have
awesome.
I have a friend who has long brown hair who does this. If you say Jesus, he says, "Yes, my son."
That's
Ah,
so amazing.
yeah. Jesus is connecting people clearly
Exactly.
in different ways.
You make
And
fun of
yeah.
him and he's still doing his work.
Yeah, but to answer your question, it feels a bit silly to say what people are missing out by not doing the same thing that I'm doing, or something about my journey, because it's so subjective, so subjective. And what I would just what would I think is a good thing that could fit for everybody from what I'm doing or trying to do is being more aware, maybe what I'm trying to learn, like being more aware of what's going on in the head. And if you have like thoughts or emotions, what you're doing, even sometimes I'm not happy where my life is going or something, and I get these moments of clarity. I'm suddenly like become aware that, hey, you know, actually I want to be outside right now, and I've been sitting behind the computer for the last like 4 hours, and I'm probably going to continue doing that, but what I actually want to do is to go outside. Why don't I do that? Not just these moments of awareness and maybe actually doing something about that. Sometimes I do something about that. That is something that has been helpful. Yeah.
I love that. And I feel like one thing that you've been teaching me, which is similar to this, you don't know you're teaching me this, but I've been learning it, is exactly that. Like having the awareness and being okay with not being okay, or having this alternative thought, or needing to ask for space or whatever favor. So yeah, I think you really are stepping into that becoming more aware of what is happening in your head or in your body, and trusting that feedback that your mind or body is giving you. And I really like that. And I've totally been learning from it too. Like I love, even just, it seems like if you have a thought about somebody or wanting to say something in response to what somebody said, you've been pushing yourself to go for it, to put it out there. And I think I censor a lot, similar to maybe what you're talking about. Like, should I be saying this? What will they think about me? Does this make me a bad person? And I think there's actually far less danger than we think there is in actually just being honest and putting it out in the world.
Yeah. Thanks, Scott. Really appreciate you for saying that. Yeah.
And it's actually funny because I've told Scott this in the last episode that I censor myself quite harshly when I'm talking to both him and you, but also when I'm with different groups. Because I come from a side that is really into rock, into metal, and those groups are most of the time are really just saying whatever's on their mind and swearing a lot. And I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say it, but God damn it is something we say almost in every sentence. So technically, if I'm cursed, it is my own fault.
Look, I think that's just bad songwriting. If they use that in every sentence, that's just bad songwriting.
Oh no, that's how we speak. That's not the songs. That's the problem.
Clearly, I am not in the loop.
No, but it's funny to hear like you guys are definitely thinking about like what if it could actually affect you, and what I'm thinking about is just your feelings. Like that's how much of a difference is there. Like I am trying not to swear as much because I don't want to offend anyone. Uh, and you guys are thinking like, oh, but what if I do get up there and they have this tally for like actually swearing? Like what happens? And I find it really interesting that that there's such a big difference there.
Well, and one thing that I've been thinking about, so I don't know if you guys noticed, but I try not to, I don't tend to swear when I do improv scenes. But I've been thinking about recently, like, well, why is that? Because sometimes certain words can only really communicate what you need to communicate in that moment. And of course, maybe characters could be using different words. It's a fun challenge for me to figure out how can I still emote without going to just what's easy to emote with. I don't know. Like the F word is just, you can just sprinkle it in everywhere, like hagelslag. Those of you who are Dutch audience members. Yeah, no, but that's one of those instances where it's like, I'm just aware that I want to have a public persona. That's what it is. I want to have a persona in improv that I don't. This, X, Y, and Z. It's interesting.
You're the good guy. You're the decent guy. You're the guy that I perceived you to be when we met.
Just look at that little goody two shoes over there. Big heart, big smile. But is there much going on in that little head of his? Maybe. Who knows?
I think there is.
So to end this podcast, first off, Kristina, thank you very much for being on here. Our plan is usually, we'll maybe talk with you after we end this, to do a series of the person's life story of faith journey, some of these questions we've given you, take a brief pause and then think through how we might want to like dialogue, like what questions do you have for us? What things did that bring up that we might want to challenge on or question more? Because I think ultimately I want this to be a safe place where people feel the freedom to also challenge and be like, well, what have you thought about this or what about that? But for right now, let's all say one thing that we're taking away from this podcast, this episode, and then we'll take a break.
Well, I want to say, I noticed I was like in my head. I just remembered. I was like, oh yeah, I have this. I was like thinking more about spirituality and God. I was like, oh yeah, I have also these thoughts that I imagine would be interesting to tell. And yeah, that's what I want to say. I have something more to tell.
Wow, it just hit us with a little cliffhanger. This is how she ensures that she comes back. This is how she's like, I'm going to be a repeat. I'm going to be a repeat. Kristina, do you want to tell us any of those thoughts or just leave us completely hanging?
Yeah, I just want to, I guess about this whole God thing is not completely off limits for me. Like I've been more and more thinking about because we spoke about inner kind of, to please Scott make this into words. I don't know, inner like striving outside that so, and I have this kind of, I've been striving to have more agency and to be more like a creator of my own life. And I have I like the story of if there is a kind of creator of this whole universe or universes, whatever dimensions, this whole whatever this thing is. So yeah, and we are kind of creators ourselves too, like we people, and in that way it kind of fits to the whole that people are as like how do you say, like Jesus. I don't remember the words from Bible, but like I like to God. Yeah, maybe Scott is like, what?
I was like, what are you talking about?
But yeah, there is some sort of like some sort of small belief in that, and maybe that will grow. I don't know, maybe I will become like super new agey person in the future, and somehow this kind of God creator thing kind of fits into my thoughts. Yeah,
I like that. All right, we'll have you back on.
Definitely. So Scott, tell us, what did you take away from this podcast?
Well, so one of the things, if I was given the ability, that I would love to ask you, Kristina, about, and Joey, it'd be interesting to hear your thoughts on this too. So Kristina, it seemed like part of your story is the pressure that is felt when someone is a religious authority, because it's a lot of authority. Like their voice holds a lot of weight, because they are in the place of like that mediator between you and God, or they're a guide. They show you how to pray or what, you know. And so I think you highlighted, or what I'm aware of in your story, is how that can become an abuse of power. An abuse of power. So they have this power, and then it's used, maybe not consciously, but the whole system kind of pushes people to just like conform, walk in step, toe the line, whatever, do the things. And so it seems like people have that kind of experience, and then they swing really hard to the other side of like personal faith, that it's just me and my thoughts, or me and my belief. And they either say like, I don't want to push this on anybody else, and I don't want anyone to push anything on me. And it's like this idea of pushing. But it's more like trauma from what has happened versus reality in that current conversation. So they can have like a pretty visceral, like, whoa, back off. And I might be just like, well, I just am asking questions, so what? And then, so my question would be, or the thing that I'd be curious to hear more about is there a better way to do it as far as guiding somebody? But then within a non-Christian world, so outside Christianity, what does guide look like? And is it valuable? Because I come from a thought, and this is, I think, is just where my beliefs operating on me, but like that we're not meant to do spirituality alone. We need community, we need guides, we need people to see what they have and say, I would like that kind of life, or that kind of attitude, or gratitude, or whatever, or that kind of parent. I want to be that kind of parent, or that kind of husband. And so for me, there's like a healthy side to that, and I think there's an unhealthy side. And so I'm just curious, like where somebody finds that in a non-Christian world, and what the value is, if there is even a value. So we don't need to go into it, but that's one of the things that I'd be curious more
Well, darn. I wanted to say the other thing, but I think since we're on the topic of not swearing as much, I say darn. I actually think I have a really quick and, well, not easy answer for that, but a real quick answer for that. And I think it's a combination of things that you've told me in the past and things I'm finding out myself. I think one of those things is mentorship, like get a mentor and talk to him about this kind of stuff, not just religious stuff, but life stuff in general, and see what they can teach you and try to apply that to your life. But at the same time, do that with friends. Like I have a really good friend of mine who teaches me a lot about like how to take care of yourself and how to help to find like a passion for other stuff, like hobbies. Since I've met her, I read a lot and I cook a lot as well. So I feel like that's a lot of ways to do it. And when it comes to parents, yeah, that's a whole different story. That's a really tough one. If you know people that are parents, they can probably teach you a couple things. But I feel like that's a lot of like getting into your own feelings, like feeling how do you want to approach something, and if need to, ask for advice. I think that's the main thing, is like find the right people and get the right advice and apply it in your own way.
Yeah, I want to answer quickly. Yeah, I really appreciate you for saying word trauma. That really is a good thing to be aware of, each one of us. I imagine many people have their own traumas, and like the patterns get triggered. And like being honest with yourself, what actually you like, what you don't like, and then going towards that. And it can be, for somebody, it can be like, I don't know, blood drinking ceremonies under the moonlight. Not my thing at the moment, might be in the future. For somebody, it can be Buddhism or Judaism, or no, those are kind of religious, but I don't know. For it can be many different things, and we just go through different processes and need different things at the different times. And that's where idea of not attaching yourself to that goals, because some of those things, they can be temporary, and that's okay. Whatever, checking with yourself, is this still relevant? Is this still working for me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And community is definitely super important, I think, for me personally. Mm-hmm.
All right. So I think I'm the last one to tell you guys what I take away from this podcast.
Do it.
Well, as mentioned, like I was thinking a lot about what happens if I get a girlfriend that is into religion. And I think my takeaway from that is that I can take over the household completely because I'm a man. Thank you, Kristina.
Her words, not ours.
No, but for real though, it's that is okay, that you can find a way, but that you need to be wary of extreme behavior towards that. Like if it's like normal practices, try to be open for it. Try to step into that world, see if it's for you. Maybe if it's not for you, try to go as well to show support, like go to church on certain days. But the main thing is that it's okay as long as there's no extreme.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. Well, stay tuned if we hit up a second episode right now or later, because either way, Kristina earned her right as a repeated guest. Thanks, everyone, for listening in. This has been In Between Two Worlds, stories of faith, unfaith, and everything in between. Kristina, thanks for being here with us.
Thank you, guys.
And we really appreciated conversing with you.
Yeah,
Yes, exactly. And we hope to see you back soon.
So I hope that too.
Hey, guys. Thanks for watching. Let us know what you thought of this video. Also, subscribe to our YouTube channel, or turn on notifications, or check out our Patreon page, or our social media, or do all of them. We're a podcast, so wherever you get your podcasts, give us a listen, whether you're doing the dishes or pooping or walking the dog. We'd love to be there with you. Finally, if you like this video, check out these videos.